What were the borders of the tribe of Judah? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Joshua on Walking Through the Bible. Today we're going to be discussing Joshua 15 verses 1 to 12. Before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, turn to Joshua chapter 15 verse 1. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So Joshua 15, beginning at verse 1. So this was the lot of the tribe of the children of Judah according to their families. The border of Edom at the wilderness of Zin southward was the extreme southern border. And their southern border began at the shore of the Salt Sea, from the bay that faces southward. Then it went out to the southern side of the ascent of Akrabim, passed along to Zin, ascended on the south side of Kadesh Barnea, passed along to Hezron, went up to Adar, and went around to Karka. From there it passed toward Asmon, and went out to the brook of Egypt, and the border ended at the sea. This shall be your southern border. The east border was the Salt Sea as far as the mouth of the Jordan. And the border on the northern quarter began at the bay of the sea at the mouth of the Jordan. The border went up from Beth Hoglah and passed north of Beth Araba. And the border went up to the stone of Bohan, the son of Reuben. Then the border went up to Debir from the valley of Achor, and it turned northward toward Gilgal, which is before the ascent of Adumim, which is on the south side of the valley. The border continued towards the waters of En-Shemesh and ended at En-Rogel. And the border went up by the valley of the son of Hinnom to the southern slope of the Jebusite city, which is Jerusalem. The border went up to the top of the mountain that lies before the valley of Hinnom westward, which is at the end of the valley of Rephaim northward. Then the border went around from the top of the hill to the fountain of the waters of Naphtali, and ended to the cities of Mount Ephron. And the border went around Baalah, which is Kirjath-jearim. Then the border turned westward from Baalah to Mount Seir, passed along to the side of Mount Jearim on the north, which is Chesalon, went down to Beth-Shemesh, and passed on to Timnah. And the border went out to the side of Ekron northward. Then the border went around Shikron, passed along Mount Baalah, and extended to Japneel, and the border ended at the sea. The west border was the coastline of the Great Sea. This is the boundary of the children of Judah all around, according to their families. In this chapter, through the end of chapter 21, we get into the section of Joshua that people often like to skip because it has a bunch of names, many of which are hard to pronounce, and we don't recognize today. When we do this, though, again, sometimes it will make future scripture harder to understand, or it might make us think there is a contradiction in scripture when in fact there is none. But it is true that this passage is harder to understand because we simply don't have the knowledge of the land of Canaan the people of Israel in the book of Joshua had. So to make it easier, we're going to use our maps from bible.ca as well as our pictures from bibleplaces.com to help us visualize where some of these places are. Some of these places are going to be our best guesses as to where these places are, while others we are more certain on. These maps and pictures are used with permission. The tribe of Judah was going to receive most of the land located south of Jerusalem, so most of the land that was conquered in chapter 10. Judah's eastern border started at the mouth of the Salt Sea, or the Dead Sea, and followed it all the way to the south of Kadesh. Thus, below the Salt Sea, Judah would have a border with Edom. Just south of Kadesh, Judah's border turned west towards the Mediterranean Sea and went along the brook of Egypt. The border ended at the sea and would form Judah's southern border. The western border of Judah would be the Mediterranean Sea. As far as the northern border is concerned, it would snake around beginning at the tip of the Dead Sea until it ended at the Mediterranean. Important things to note about the northern border of Judah is that the border with Benjamin, that we'll discuss in future lessons, would be right at Jerusalem, with both tribes controlling parts of what would later be the larger city. That's why we're going to see in the future sometimes Jerusalem being talked about as being with the tribe of Judah, and sometimes as being with the tribe of Benjamin. The city of Jerusalem was much smaller in the days of Joshua, but the territory surrounding Jerusalem would be owned by both Judah and Benjamin. Also, we saw the city of Kirjath-Jearim mentioned in chapter 9. It too would be part of the tribe of Judah, but Gibeon, the city that was named along with it in the treaty with Israel, would be in the tribe of Benjamin. We're later going to find out that Judah also shared a northern border with the tribe of Dan, something we'll also discuss in future lessons. We hope now that you've been able to visualize what the borders of the tribe of Judah looked like, that you'll have a greater appreciation for the land it possessed. We'll continue with the inheritance of Judah, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Joshua chapter 15, verses 13 to 19, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.